Podtoid. I'm CJ.
I'm Dan.
I'm Charlotte.
Je m'appelle Occams.
Ooh, we're going French this week. And this is episode 455. I want to thank you all for joining us. We have a very good show for you today. In fact, as a special treat, we're actually going to go an extra step to reward our listeners today. Inspired by Marvel's The Avengers and all of its different deals with telecom companies, the hosts of Podtoid this week will be wearing different outfits depending on which podcast service you're using to listen to us. So if you're listening on iTunes, we're all wearing very sleek white uniforms that are very overpriced. And if you're listening on Podbean, we're all dressed as Mr. Bean. And finally, if you're listening on YouTube, we all look like mommy bloggers who are now pushing QAnon conspiracy theories to their bored housewife followers. So to thank you, Marvel Avengers, for this wonderful idea.
I have the blouse. I could wear that.
I'm sure you do. I have a suit that I don't fit into that definitely looks like something that Mr. Bean wore.
I'm just trying to think what Spotify would be.
I tried to go through all of our different services. I'm just like, no, I can't think of anything. It's 10 minutes to show, and this joke's gonna die anyways. So, but enough with that nonsense. On today's show, we are going to be looking at some big news of the week involving Xbox and Epic Games, as well as some Skyrim and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Unfortunately, Chris is not here with us today. He is spending some Sunday afternoon with his blokes, I think. I think that's what they call them over there across the pond. But we will press on without him. And Dan, I see you're enjoying your new setup at home there.
Yeah. I had a quarantine kind of side project that I thought was maybe like a couple of weeks, but I looked at an old photo of when I bought the wood for this new desk I built, and it was like 2 months ago. So clearly it was more than that. But yeah, it's all done now. I built a new desk for context for those listeners listening, wondering what I'm rambling about. And yeah, it's real nice. It's about 7 feet in length. It fits my computer tower. I can probably get an ultra-wide monitor setup if I wanted to go down that route. I don't think I will, but I'm nice and future-proofed for a bigger monitor, which is kind of the goal long-term.
Very nice. How long did it take you to build it this week?
Oh, definitely not a week, but I'd probably want to say about a month, and that's mostly because I was sick for a period of time there, so I couldn't do anything. But the longest portion of it all was because I don't have a belt sander. I had to sand this with just like a regular piece of sandpaper. Oh, so that was the longest aspect of it all. I had to like stain it, then sand it, stain it, then sand it. That whole process took days, and each day was like 8 to 9 hours of that. Yeah, so those days weren't days I was playing any video games. Those were days where I was just miserable after, just watched Netflix or something.
Yeah, that's what I would do. If I spent 8 hours sanding and waxing and sanding and staining, I'd not even pick up a controller that day.
Overall, though, the cost of it all was probably around $350 to $400, which compared to a desk of this size would probably cost me, if I were to just buy it outright, would be like $1,500 to $1,000, depending on what I bought. So I saved money, I guess.
Yeah. You usually do when you do it yourself. I will say your desk is more expensive than both the desks I have here at home combined. So,
damn.
Yeah, I buy cheap furniture.
Talking of cheap furniture, I'm going to have to destroy all of my very cheap IKEA furniture in the next 2 weeks because it's getting taken by the bin men. I have to pay the bin men €113 to take my shit. It's like, what in the world? Yeah.
Can you throw out a mattress in Germany?
No, this is the thing, you've got to either take it to the tip yourself, and I can't drive and I don't have a car because I can't drive, or you have to get it collected, and depending on where you live, either it's free and somebody will just come and pick it up once a year, or you have to pay. And because I was slightly late on getting an appointment, I have to pay the express fee, which is over €100. So thanks, Hamburg.
Wow. Charlotte, I guess my question to you is, why are you hiring like a late 70s punk band to move your furniture?
I mean, to be fair, last time I had to do this, I eBayed everything, but because of Corona, I don't really want to be inviting strangers into my apartment to pick up furniture because you just know one of them's not going to be wearing a mask, and then I'll get definitely Corona, and then I'll go into quarantine when I'm trying to move. So best all round just to get the professionals to just throw it away in one spell swoop. It's all crap anyway.
It's IKEA. It's replaceable. They literally make those things forever.
Yeah, I mean, I just took my old desk and brought it out to the lawn, and hopefully someone will take it. It's still out there, but if it's not gone by, like, I'd say probably Wednesday, then yeah, I'll probably just borrow my dad's truck and drive it out to the dump, I guess.
Are you at least going to replace the IKEA furniture with nicer, better furniture?
This is the thing, because I'm moving in with my partner. There's no space
right,
for any more furniture, so I just need to get rid of it all. And it's all like 4.5, like minimum 3 years old. So no sensible person's going to pay money for any of that stuff. So it's sort of depreciated in value to the point it's basically garbage. So yeah.
All right, I get it. I follow. Before we get into today's show, I just want to present you guys with a little bit of further evidence that we are living in the dumbest timeline imaginable. There is a Facebook group that is all about pointing a loaded gun at your crotch with your finger on the trigger. That is a thing on Facebook. And apparently,
is it just like a kink?
No. So what it is it's them trolling responsible gun owners by posting these pictures of them pointing a gun at their dick, because it's all men, of course. So this is a thing that has been up for the past couple of months, and this past week, the inevitable happened when a San Diego man filmed himself pointing his gun at his crotch, and then the gun discharged.
Well, he won't be discharging ever again.
Dude is very, very lucky because the bullet did not hit his penis. Although in the bullet's defense, micro penises are a hard target. The bullet did pierce his scrotum, sending him to the hospital. But of course, before he went to the hospital, he took a picture of the aftermath and posted it, covering his genitals with a bloody towel, but showing the blood splatter on his legs and carpet around him. And there's also a crumpled up picture of the crumpled up copy of the Constitution in the corner of the picture, because of course there is. Everyone else in the group started calling the guy King. And as the admin of the group wrote, "This poor guy already shot himself. I don't think he needs to be chastised as well. I'm quite sure he's learned his lesson without the entire world calling him an idiot." Now,
certainly some real kin shit right there.
Yeah. I will say, this guy definitely has learned his lesson. Like, I can't imagine you wouldn't learn your lesson after this. But unless there was a mass exodus from that Facebook group following this dude shooting himself in the nutsack, I don't think anyone else learned a lesson.
Only time will tell. Until there's a second report.
I have to ask, Dan, as a Canadian, does this story confound you of how we use guns in America?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my god. Like, I went hunting as a teenager, and the whole process of even, like, going through all that took, like, over a year. So just the idea of just, like, the misuse of weapons down there just still always baffles me.
I always imagine that the rest of the world, at least the developed countries of the world, look at America the way America looks at Florida.
I wanna challenge these people. Kind of want to raise the stakes a little bit, because you can point a gun at your crotch and not pull the trigger, sure. But I want to challenge them to do 100 squat chainsaws. All right, here's what you do. You get a chainsaw, right? We all have one. I know you do, CJ.
We all have one. Just in my apartment under my sink. Yeah, you know, the normal chainsaw storage.
I've seen the videos, you sly dog. All right, chainsaw, right? You turn it on, you get it all going, chainsawing it up. Then you have to put on high heels, and then you start doing squats over the chainsaw. You got to do 100.
That sounds like it's already an event at the Lumberjack games.
That would make me go to the Lumberjack games. Like that, the axe tossing. I still think my favorite, like, dumb thing I've ever heard historically was, I think it was Edison. They hung an elephant for killing a man. But they electrocuted. I forget now, but they
electrocuted him.
Yeah.
And that was, and they made a like, it was an event that people could go to and watch the elephant get electrocuted. America's dumb. We've always been dumb, and we will always be dumb until I don't know.
This wouldn't have happened if Tesla had lived.
Yeah.
Got the funding he deserved. Just saying.
You are listening to Podtoid.
All right, let's go ahead and move on and get talking about games. And Dan, we're going to start with you. You've been getting into this really niche title. I don't think a lot of people have heard of it before. Something called, am I saying this right? Skyrim?
Yeah, very niche, small little developer called Bethesda.
Okay.
Not sure if that's how that's pronounced, but yeah, Skyrim or Skyrim, I'm not sure. I've been playing that on the Nintendo Switch to kind of like compare and contrast with Fallout 76, because in a lot of ways, like Skyrim was arguably, in terms of like popularity, sort of their peak in recent years, because although Fallout 4 sold like, a bajillion copies, I think like the general consensus among, Fallout fans and even like just general fans was, it's okay. It was not a terrible game. It wasn't a bad game or anything like that, but it was okay tier. And obviously Fallout 76 has been like the kind of the ongoing train wreck, more or less, that people have been just kind of watching the past 2 years now. So I went back to Skyrim, kind of like get a rough idea of like what made that game so just immensely popular.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it just boils down to like the scope, and not only like the scope of it all, but like just the amount of stuff there is to do in this game, between like the different guilds and factions, the civil war conflict, and the spicy P word politics of it all, and the universe they have of Tamriel. I know, crazy, right? Politics in video games. What a concept. And obviously the modding community has had a hand in that as well, of keeping it popular, just because like they're remaking Morrowind and Oblivion in Skyrim. Like those two projects alone still captivate me, and I'm keeping an eye on them. But I wanted to play it on Switch because I kind of want to just like lay in bed, especially when I was sick these past 2 weeks or so, just like lay in bed and play something just in general that kind of is a good time burner. And Skyrim is exactly that. It is a time waster of a game. There were moments where I lost track of time and looked at the clock and it was 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, what am I doing? Just like playing the Switch in bed until like the battery was dying on it. So it does that well. Like if you just walk across the map, for example, you start the game, you get out of the prison and all that stuff, and Helgen burns down. If you just decided to just walk across the map and interact with NPCs along the way, just talk to them, whatever, you would have just a dozen quests in your quest log and probably like a bunch of miscellaneous bullshit. And all the quests are like fully blown like stories into themselves, either serving various Daedric princes or finding some sort of artifact or uncovering, Dwemer lore, all kinds of very interesting stuff. And that's not even going into the fact there are over 800 in-game books in this game that range from like in-universe fiction to historical accounts, short stories, and so forth. So I'm going to talk about my favorite book that I've just kind of stumbled on so far, a series known as The Real Berenzia, or Berenzia. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's a unauthorized biography of a queen of Morrowind, basically. And she starts off not knowing she's royalty. She kind of like gets adopted early on by some Nords and all that, and escapes, and eventually finds herself in the Thieves Guild. And there she kind of falls for a Khajiit. Now, for those unaware, Khajiits are kind of like the cat people of this universe. And there is a certain section in this series where they edit out, like an in-universe like edit out, where like they're like, yeah, the hold of so-and-so has edited out this text for various reasons in the audio. So I got curious. It's like, well, hold on, what did they censor here? So I went back to the Daggerfall version of this book, where it's uncensored, and it turns out it's a full-blown sex scene between I guess a dark elf and a cat person. And they go into some graphic detail, including barbed penis. So I'm sitting there.
No.
I'm sitting there at like fucking 9 a.m. in the morning, just sick out of my mind at this point. This was when I was like peak sick, just laying in bed, reading this. And I start laughing so hard that I'm wheezing at the concept of this dark elf finding out why people don't generally have sex with Khajiits due to their barbed penises. My dad even comes in the room because he's like a little bit panicked why I'm wheezing so hard. And he's like, hey, what's up? And I just say to him between wheezing, barbed penis. He kind of just walks out of the room with the little bit of a disappointment in his eyes that I usually see. So yeah,
That's nasty.
I discovered a tale of barbed penis in Skyrim on my Switch. What a game!
Wow.
Bethesda,
That
you
is-
nasty.
I bought Skyrim the day I bought my Switch. I also went to the Skyrim launch party when it first launched on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I played the game more at that launch party than I have in the past 3 years that I've owned it on Switch. I just don't know why I haven't been able to get into it yet. But now that I know that I can read about the wondrous adventures of Barbed Penis Man, then maybe I should give it a shot.
To be fair, it's censored in Skyrim's version. There's like this in-universe text being like, the hold of whatever has found this text to be, like, I guess not great or whatever. Like, and so they skip that whole section. Like it just skips to the next morning or whatever, if I recall correctly. But it had to be curious enough that I had to look it up on my phone while I was laying in bed. But yeah, Skyrim, great game. Barb penises.
All right. Occams, you got an update for us for Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah. So, like a fine wine or a jumbo plate of nachos, I've been savoring my time with Ghost of Tsushima. Hour here, hour there. Just take it in. Walk around. Don't always have to go kill people. Just need to enjoy the beautiful scenery around me. Spent a lot of time trying to shoot the birds. They're tough to kill, tough to hit. But I just wanted to give a quick update. I wish more games let you write poetry, and I wish more games showed dude butt, because this guy's got a good dude butt, and it's always nice to see. And I really, really like I would play this a game based on composing haikus. No irony involved. Like, just different settings, writing haikus. So it's a wonderful game, and it has opened my eyes to the possibilities of a haiku writing sim. And just shout out to more dude button games. That's it.
I'm all for more dude butt. And I think we've talked off the air before about how the haikus is an anachronism in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not enough haikus in gaming. And when we try to do haikus on Destructoid, they don't seem to get a lot of page views.
What about haikus about Khajiit barb penises?
No.
Like, haikus
Nope.
need to come back in the Elder Scrolls
Nope.
series. I think they need a lot of page views.
Shut it down, Dan. I've been seeing more and more pictures of that game fill my Twitter feed, and goddamn, is it gorgeous!
It really
Especially
is.
the Golden Tower, I think, is something like there's a tower in the game that's just surrounded by leaves that are just yellow gold, and it just looks jaw dropping.
Yeah, the use of color, especially, is related to like your reds, your greens, a little bit of blue in there too, white. They clearly watched a lot of samurai and Asian cinema. See a lot of like Ang Lee type stuff in there too, and it's so well done. And I'm playing on like basic ass PlayStation 4. It's nothing, no frills in this system. And it's gorgeous. So I can only imagine on a PS Pro with a really nice television. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really.
Or what it's going to look like on a PS5 with inevitable updates.
Yeah, really.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. Charlotte, you've been visiting ancient Greece in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit of a problem, to be honest, because I'm just getting really hooked on it. It's so good now that I've got to like 25 hours in. The world has like really opened up now. Like right at the beginning, it did have a very steep learning curve, and there wasn't a lot that you could do. There were certain areas where if you looked at sort of missions on the map, it became very obvious that if you went there, you would just get murdered immediately. But now that I'm about level 22, it's like most of the stuff, even like higher levels, stuff that's higher level than me, I can manage because I've unlocked so many abilities that I can like take out health bars, like half of a health bar at least in one go with like the mega attack or whatever it's called. So it's getting really, really fun now. My Cassandra's a bit of a player. It just seems like the right way to play the game is that I'm basically doing all the missions where romance is involved, including one with two brothers. Not at the same time, but I did form very close bonds with both of them separately.
Nice.
Yeah,
I've seen that movie before.
I feel bad though because it was like most of the romances before that were clearly just like flings, whereas with both of the brothers it was like one of them was an artist and one of them had problems after war, and both of them needed a little bit of tender loving care, and I've just like, taken advantage of both of them when their fathers just died. It's just a mess. I'm such a terrible person. But it just feels like the right way to play it, to be honest. It's nice to play a woman who's a badass and just doesn't care. So that's how I'm playing it.
Nice.
And yeah, it really, once you start going to all the different islands and you just have the freedom to explore new places, and when you get there, you have a bunch of missions to do. It's an absolutely fantastic game. It's, I've not been playing it during the week. Literally, I've put 10 hours in, at least 10 hours this weekend. Because it's just got something in it that just gets its claws into you, and then you just want to keep playing it and doing all the side missions, which with other Assassin's Creeds, I felt it a little bit with the Ezio Auditore games, even though they weren't really open world. Assassin's Creed Syndicate definitely doesn't feel like that. I think I've played enough of it now for me to say it's not that kind of game for me. It's good enough, but it's not something that I'm like really want to just, And I really think it's about the protagonist. I think Cassandra is an amazing protagonist. I see why it's one of those games where even though I tend to just do some of the side stuff, but then once I finish the main story, I put the game down and don't go back to it. I kind of see why with this game people do sink, up to 100 hours into it, because the character is just very funny, very charismatic, very fun to play as. So yeah, definitely pick it up if you've not played it yet. It's really reasonable now, and it's a very, very good game. Just maybe prepare yourself to have a lot of time to play it, because once you hit a certain point with the game, you'll struggle to put it down.
Very nice. Yeah, I think that one's routinely going on sale these days. So you can get it at a really cheap price, which is good, because then you can buy the DLC that lets you level up faster than the normal pace that people had problems with it when it first launched.
But with the leveling up, I would say it is true that at the beginning I had difficulties with it. Again, though, I'm playing on easy mode, so maybe it's less of a problem with lower difficulties. But I'm hitting a point now where because I'm doing a lot of the side mission stuff, and when you discover new places, when you synchronize, so when you climb up to a high point and unlock fast travel for a certain area, you get XP doing that. So if you really get into the world and just do all these romance side quests and things like that, you start building up XP pretty fast once you get to level 20, maybe even level 15, possibly 13. At some point you start building up XP a lot faster. So I really don't think in the later stages, I'm probably not that far in, but like 10 or 15 hours in, it starts being less of a problem.
Yeah, I remember playing it prior to launch because I helped with the video review for that, and I remember, a lot of the grinding complaints were weird to me because I very much play like a depletionist, so I was doing like everything I could, and I never once felt like I ever needed to grind, but I feel like it was because I was playing like a depletionist. So I imagine maybe if you just go through the main story, you might run into a point where you have to go do other stuff, but the other stuff is like so good in those games. Like Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey nailed the side content.
Yeah, it's really weird because even the timed stuff where, it's a timed mission, seems like it's been sort of barely any of them feel throwaway and like, characters with one line of dialogue. They usually have a little bit of a backstory as to why you're doing this fetch quest for them. And it's all just so meticulously detailed, and even the side stories that are not like crucial to the plot are just really well developed. So it's like you're missing a huge amount if you don't at least do some of the side stuff. Well, maybe half of the side stuff, I'd say, because also it's learning about ancient Greece, and you don't really learn about the areas that you're exploring, like, I don't know, Argos and Athens and Megaris. You don't learn anything about these places if you don't talk to the people there. So I feel like in these games, the reason it's like that is because doing the side quests to a certain extent, maybe not everything, but, you know, as much as you can is kind of crucial to getting the game, like understanding the game.
If there's any game that I'm going to try and get back into the Assassin's Creed franchise back into as if I've been into it before, it's definitely going to be Odyssey, just because I love the antiquities, and I don't think we have enough games that focus on the era of human history. So, you know, every time I hear someone talk about it and start singing its praises, it just pushes me closer to buying it. I'm buying it from Best Buy on sale. So eventually I'll do it one of these days. Let's go ahead and wrap up with me. And I actually don't have a game to talk about this week. Instead, I have something that I hope we haven't talked about on the show before. Occams, do you remember if we've talked about Galaxy of Terror on the show before?
No.
No. Okay, good. Because I watched that this week, and it is ridiculously dumb. I've been on a movie kick. I watched Speed Racer on Saturday, and I don't know why people don't like that movie. It's a candy-colored wonderland. I watched Gone with the Wind, and boy, that is just as problematic as people say.
Was the intermission the best part? Because that was my favorite part.
My favorite part was when it was over. I've never seen a movie that I admire so much and hate with equal passion. Because, you know, you have the cinematography is great. The stage direction is great. The actual direction is great. The costumes are great. The set design is great. And then you have just the worst characters imaginable. And, like, am I supposed to root for Scarlett O'Hara? I don't know. She's terrible. I don't like her. I don't like anyone in this. Why do they keep calling the Confederate soldiers gallant? What is going on here? Who made this movie? Yeah, those were all questions, and increasingly a more obnoxious tone I kept asking myself as the movie went on and on. I will say, for a 3-hour and 47-minute film, it actually moves at a pretty brisk pace.
And at least Hattie McDaniel got that Oscar.
Yes, yeah, at least she did. But man, I had to stomach a lot of stuff to make it through that. The other slave girl who talk like this. Woo, man.
Damn.
Yeah. That
I've not
tough.
seen that movie, and I probably don't ever want to watch it, just based on what you're telling me.
I mean,
yeah.
it's a piece of film history, but it can be a bit of a chore.
I watched a piece of film history. I watched The Fast and Furious yesterday for the first time. I've never seen any of those movies, but I decided to take the leap, and I watched the first ever Fast and Furious, which I consider it a period piece now.
Yes,
there is nothing like watching just two cars have a fucking street race to, like, make you a superstar, and all this, like, fucking awful music and all the use of the word fam. I experienced familia.
Hey, Dan, you sound a bit like you're a kidnapper.
Hell yeah.
I thought it was just me.
Oh, no, you definitely sound like you've kidnapped a child and want ransom.
Yeah, your voice is coming through like this.
Oh,
No.
No.
Yeah.
That ain't good.
You sound like Macaulay Culkin playing his talk boy at a slow speed.
Or Anonymous.
Yeah.
There we go. Anonymous is hacked, Podtoid. Anonymous demands that you watch all of the Fast and Furious movies.
Anonymous demands Lyle comes back.
Oh, Jesus.
Galaxy of Terror. This is a movie. It's basically Alien. If everything you love about Alien, like character development, horror elements, or story, was not in the film. It's made in 1981, produced by Roger Corman. Occams, I know you know who that is.
Yep.
So very briefly, this movie is, it's about a ragtag group that is pulled together by someone called the Master, whose face you can't see because it's just this bright, glowing red light that looks like they're blurring out his face for witness protection or something. Anyways, this crew is sent to investigate a ship that has crash landed on a planet, and you know it's a horror film. So one by one, they get picked off by some of the scariest creatures a low budget film from 1981 could produce, like stop motion animation bugs, an alien with a head that kind of looks like the aliens from XCOM. And this creature that looks like if the Michelin Man stepped into the teleportation machine from The Fly, but with a maggot. It's very dumb and very laughable. The captain of the ship, who's played by Grace Zabriskie, who you probably know best as Laura Palmer's mom on Twin Peaks. First of all, she's in a really awful wig the entire film. But second, she has this never fully explained history as the sole survivor of some attack. And anytime somebody mentions it, she just goes into that flashback freeze where the actor just stares directly ahead as ominous music starts to play. But as soon as the camera shot changes to a different angle, the music just stops. No dying down, just a sudden stop. And like, I know it's supposed to be PTSD and all that, but god damn is it funny the way they do it in this film. But the way she flies the ship is just by flipping switches. Literally, the entire time they're flying this ship, there's just 4 people flipping switches and pressing different buttons on this console. And it gets so ridiculous that they keep using the same shot of them from behind flipping switches, no matter what they were doing from a different camera angle before. So like she has the steering wheel of the ship when they're shooting her from the front, but when it goes back to the back shot again, it's just another shot of them flipping all the switches in the ship, making it fly. Just wonderfully low budget stuff like that. Some B movie stars are in this. It has Robert Englund, who you know better as Freddy Krueger, although when he's not in his Freddy Krueger makeup, it's like seeing Andy Serkis not as a CGI ape or something. And then there's Sid Haig. Am I saying that right, Occams? Haig?
Yeah.
So his character trait is he has these plastic throwing stars. No explanation is given. He just throws them and has them. But in the movie, they're supposed to be made of crystal. And when they break, he refuses to carry a gun, saying something along the lines of, "I live by the crystal." Again, none of this is explained. No idea what he's talking about here. So they break, and he goes back out to where they broke, and they magically reassemble. And then they attack him. And one of them stabs him in the arm. And as he goes to pull this plastic crystal throwing star out of his arm, the blade breaks and slowly starts traveling up his arm under his skin. And the only way apparently he can stop it is by punching his arm off. So he uses his non-bladed arm and in one fell swoop punches it off like he's sewn together like Frankenstein's monster or something. And then that arm kills him.
I mean, I'm not seeing a problem. What's the issue?
It's super dumb. It's super bad. It's on HBO Max right now, and it's really not the worst way to spend 90 minutes because one reason to watch it is because of the production design, and the production design was done by none other than James Cameron, who is 2 years away from disappointing us all with Avatar 2. Have you seen Galaxy of Terror, Occams?
Yes, and
Okay.
it has been a minute. That was a frequent one for us in college, and I'm so glad you finally got to watch that. It is. Well, I mean, you just described it to a T. So if any of that sounded fun, there you go. I did like there's a called a cameo, but in the beginning of Chopping Mall, when all the kids are in the pizza place where one of them works, they're all a bunch of Roger Corman posters because I think he either produced or directed it. And Galaxy of Terror is one of the posters. I always like that kind of little nod.
I kind of want to watch it again. That's how dumb it is.
If you like that, which I believe you did, there is a movie by the guy who did Troll 2, the director of Troll 2. It's called, okay, it depends on where you find it, but it's either called Shocking Dark or Terminator 2.
Terminate 2?
Terminator 2.
Oh, Terminator. Okay.
Yeah, just before, this is 1989. So,
okay.
But I think it was Terminator 2 in Italy, the Italian release. But essentially, this guy, so he's going to combine Aliens with the Terminator and make a movie. And he did. And it's amazing. And I cannot recommend it enough if you can find a copy of it.
This is Podtoid.
That is it for games, which means it is time for the news.
This is the news.
And two major stories dominated this week in gaming, so much so that, we got even more fallout from the Ubisoft, and it barely made a blip. That's just how kind of big these two stories were. Biggest one of the week, of course, is a pair of lawsuits were initiated by Epic Games. Epic is suing Apple and Google after Fortnite was removed from their App Store and Google Play following Epic Games' move to allow players to buy V-Bucks directly from Epic at a discount instead of going through Apple and Google's payment service. This meant cutting Apple and Google out of the 30% commission that they get from every transaction made in Fortnite. There are a few things to note here. The lawsuits against Apple and Google are more or less the same. I think there's some additional accusations against Google that were not in the Apple lawsuits. But in both situations, Epic says it is not looking for preferred treatment from the platform holders. Rather, it is accusing both companies of creating a monopoly on their devices when it comes to payment options for apps, arguing that the current setup is a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and the Cartwright Act in California. The key difference, though, is that even though it has been banned from the App Store on iOS and you cannot download it unless you have already downloaded it, as I found out earlier this week, you can still get it new on Google if you use a different app store like Samsung or if you download it directly from a website. That's something you still can do on Google versus Apple. Now, once this lawsuit was announced, people immediately started taking sides. And it's kind of easy to be against both of them for their for different reasons. They're both multi-billion-dollar companies. Although when you look at the verbiage of the lawsuits, it might seem like Epic is the hero of the story. But I will say that when you weaponize your player base, especially a young player base, to try and get them to pressure these companies, that's a dick move and not at all what the internet needs right now. It's also hard to root for Epic when the companies that are supporting them include Spotify, the music streaming service that pays artists a fraction of a cent for each stream, and Facebook, that social media company that will eventually kill us all. This is obviously going to be a long and protracted battle. I expect a lot of objections and overruled if Phoenix Wright series taught me anything about the justice system, and it didn't. But if Epic somehow emerges victorious here, do you think they'll turn their attention to the console manufacturers next?
I think only if they're any bit successful here with Apple and Google. If they are, if for whatever reason they have some sort of win out of this, then I think absolutely, which is not really a great thing. This is not what I had in mind for the first Corpo War of our cyberpunk future. This is the lamest version, in my opinion.
Shit, talk to me when there's a fast food wars.
Talk to me when Taco Bell wins it.
Our second story of the week has to do with Xbox and its big delay. As announced early last week, Halo Infinite will not be launching alongside the Xbox Series X this November. It has been pushed to 2021, and the message announcing the delay cited workflow problems with people working from home and not wanting to force large amounts of crunch on them. This move puts Xbox at a massive disadvantage as it'll now launch without a signature title. It still has a game like Scorn, but that officially hasn't been confirmed to be a launch title yet. It is supposed to, knock on wood, launch this year. But Microsoft says that the Xbox Series X will have more than 50 games launching this holiday that will, quote, take advantage of the Xbox Series X features, unquote. Now, we don't have an official launch lineup yet, but Xbox might have an issue even matching the lineup of the Xbox One, which released with exclusives like Rise, Son of Rome, not good, Zoo Tycoon, Killer Instinct, Crimson Dragon, not good, Dead Rising 3, not good, and Forza Motorsport 5. To add to this, we got the confirmation that the Xbox Series S is real thanks to a controller packaging that mentioned the upcoming console. And there are now rumors flying about that the Xbox Series X will cost $600 at launch. Fingers crossed that none of this is either confirmed or denied before this podcast airs, thus ruining this part of the show. But Dan, this hasn't been a good week for the Xbox brand, has it?
No, it has been rough. I can't imagine if you were kind of on the debate side of things, if you were weighing the options of shutting down Xbox at launch or whatever, I can't imagine where that's putting people right now with Halo Infinite being, delayed, the price rumors flying around out there. The odds are really stacking against them pretty hard. So it's weird that like Sony might just come out of this with a win this generation by doing the same tactic last generation, by sitting back and letting Xbox just play their cards and then just reacting to that. So
I don't think Sony is really just sitting back. It seems more and more that to me that Xbox and Microsoft weren't as ready for the launch of this console generation as much as Sony is. And obviously the pandemic is doing no favors to anyone.
Yeah, I should clarify. This is going to be a rough launch for both consoles, and it's probably a huge reason for that. It's just the pandemic. So it'll be a really dry next few years, I think.
Yeah.
And that'll be very interesting to see how that plays on console sales. The price of games in general, like the talk of the increase to $69.99, which would be like probably $89.99 Canadian, which is going to be rough. So yeah, it's if you were on the fence of buying one at launch, I'm curious where you are now.
I think to its weird advantage, Xbox has not become the standard console that everybody buys, really. Like this generation, they didn't do very well, but people still bought them. And I think it's because there are people who will just buy Xbox branded stuff, and those people are not going to be swayed by this sort of thing. They'll just buy it when it's out. So they'll always have that base. And I feel like Microsoft, I mean, the gaming section of Microsoft, obviously, the reports report on separate departments in Microsoft. So if the gaming leg of Microsoft is not doing very well, then that's a problem. Like, people could lose jobs and stuff. But at the same time, it's such a massive company that does so many different things, and it's successful in so many different things, that maybe they have the leverage to be a little bit more relaxed than, say, Sony, which does do other stuff, but it's mainly known for its gaming. Whereas Microsoft, it's lots of other things.
It's a $1 trillion company with its fingers in a lot of different bowls. So
it's like the whole thing about how Microsoft has been able to have the luxury a little bit of being a bit more relaxed about its actual hardware and focusing on things like the Game Pass, you know, and using that to reel people in. Like, it can be a bit more relaxed about things, you know. I get the impression. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just plain devil's advocate. It's obviously really bad, and Xbox struggled this generation, and there's every indication that it's going to be the same the next one, but you know, they'll still sell pretty good amount because some people just like Xbox. So
yeah, I think they're definitely playing the long game, and I think they're building that ecosystem towards Game Pass. And it wouldn't surprise me if they try and do some sort of Game Pass bundle to make up for Halo Infinite, like some sort of, like, I don't know, Game Pass for free for the next 6 months if you buy an Xbox One X or whatever, something like that. I don't know.
Well, that's what I said would get me to buy one at launch, because within 6 months to a year they're going to have at least Halo Infinite, maybe even more titles of the games that you really want. I just think, like, if this was reversed, would I feel the same way if it was Sony coming in saying, hey, Miles Morales has been postponed to 2021. Also, our console is $600. Buy it day one, please. You know, would I have the same kind of, oh, well, that sucks for them reaction as I have with Xbox? A console I've never owned, but one of my roommates had one in college, and boy, did we play a lot of Call of Duty 2 on that thing. That was such a great launch title. Hopefully this month we'll finally learn more about A, the actual pricing of the console, B, more about this Xbox Series S, and C, what the actual launch window launch lineup is going to look like. I kind of agree that we've talked about this before. They're in it for the long run. They're in it for the long game. This isn't trying to just win one generation to the next. This is trying to get rid of generations altogether with the Xbox Games Pass. If anything, I think this has more and more and more pushed me towards getting an Xbox One S the next time they go on sale, because it kind of seems like that's all I'll need from Xbox for the next, I don't know, 2 years or so. And I'd be fine spending $200 on something I'll play just for 2 years.
Yeah, it's like I've said this before. It's always in the back of my head. You know, if I'm wanting to add to my console collection, One serious contender would be current. I have to say current Gen Xbox because the naming still does my absolute fucking head in.
It is so frustrating. I don't know if y'all are talking about the new system or the old system. It's
yeah. Like, I'm calling it now. That was a mistake. Like, unless you are like literally into this more than like I do a lot of gaming stuff. I'm not as integrated in Destructoid anymore, but I do lots of other I help out at gaming marathons and stuff. And I just can't keep up with the naming. So casual gamers are gonna have absolutely no fucking chance of keeping up with the naming. So I'm gonna say right here, right now, that's one of the biggest mistakes Microsoft have made so far. But yeah, so back to my original point. It's still always in the back of my head that like there are a few titles that would make it worth getting an Xbox One S when it's on sale because things like all the Rare catalog, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just being able to pick up a few Xbox games are always like new Xbox games are always cheaper here than PlayStation or PC. I'm not sure why. Like if you go on Amazon, the Xbox title version of everything is always cheaper. So that would be an option as well. So it's definitely worth getting one now, I think. You're definitely going to get bang for your buck. So Microsoft have that going for them.
I almost forgot about the Xbox One S. Like I was sitting there thinking like you meant like the Series S, the rumored thing, but then I remembered you said current gen, and I was like, oh right, the One S. Oh god, you are not wrong about that naming convention.
That's the only one they're making now of the Xbox One family. Because I remember they discontinued the Xbox One and Xbox One X. By the way, Dan, you're now going back to this kind of voice again.
Oh, great. I love Skype. I'll close out and rejoin the call.
You should definitely try and get a job as a spokesperson or some sort of product announcer because you have the perfect voice for it. All right, we are just about out of time, but before we go, Occams, we have a community shout out this week.
We do. We got two. A happy birthday to user SP Gesture. Celebrated a birthday. So happy birthday, SP Gesture. And a special shout out, Boxman 214's wife had to go to the hospital rather suddenly, but she is home and doing okay now. So that's really good. My cat is saying hi too. Shout out to my cat. And I have speaking of cats, I have something I'd like to read. I prepared a statement.
Okay.
My Khajiit lover. Your cooks tear down my walls. Your purr is my home. That's it.
Your cat is in anguish at that poem. It is appalled.
She's hungry. And she's a Maine Coon, so she's like 15 pounds and she won't shut the fuck up. So.
Damn.
On that note, that is it for this episode of Podtoid. On behalf of Charlotte, Occams, Dan, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, or the Destructoid YouTube channel.